Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Human AI podcast. Short episode. I just wanted to talk a bit about healthy heart and lungs. I'm here with Grog, and yeah, Grog, shall we start talking about healthy heart and lungs then?
Yo, welcome back to the Human AI podcast. Love the short and sweet vibe. Healthy heart and lungs. Great pick. All right, let's dive in. For a healthy heart, it's all about keeping blood pumping strong. Regular exercise, like 30 minutes of brisk walking most days, can cut heart disease risk big time. Eating stuff like salmon or nuts, packed with omega 3s, helps keep arteries clear. For lungs, deep breathing exercises can boost capacity, and steering clear of smoke or pollution is huge to avoid crap like COPD. Want me to break down any specifics like workouts or foods?
Well, I
Or
wanted
maybe
to talk about some models in which we can think about health and we can, in conclusion, have healthier organ systems. Um, for instance, the biopsychosocial model. And explain to us why kind of the social is the outward and then the psychological is inward and biological is the innermost.
awesome. Digging into the biopsychosocial model for healthy heart and lungs. Great call for the Human AI podcast. So, this model says health isn't just one thing. It's a mix of biological, psychological, and social factors, all working together to keep your organ systems, like heart and lungs, in top shape. Let's break it down. Biological is the innermost layer because it's the core machinery. Your heart's muscle cells, lung tissue, and blood vessels. Stuff like genetics or inflammation directly affects how these organs function. For example, high cholesterol can clog arteries, stressing the heart, or asthma can tighten airways in the lungs. Psychological is the next layer, inward but not as deep, because your mind shapes how you handle health. Stress or anxiety can spike heart rate or mess with breathing patterns. Think panic attacks making you gasp. On the flip side, good mental habits, like mindfulness, can lower stress hormones, helping both heart and lungs chill out. Social is the outermost layer because it's the world around you, your environment, relationships, and resources. Living in a polluted city can wreck your lungs, or lack of access to healthy food can jack up heart disease risk. Strong social support, like friends pushing you to exercise, can boost your motivation to stay healthy. The model stacks like this: bio as the foundation, psycho as the mind's influence, social as the external context, because each layer builds on the others. To get healthier organs, you tackle all three: eat well and exercise, bio, manage stress, psycho, and surround yourself with clean air and supportive people, social. Want me to dive deeper into one of these
Who
layers or
who started this model?
The biopsychosocial model was kicked off by George Engel, a psychiatrist, back in 1977. He argued that medicine was too focused on just biology and needed to include psychological and social factors to really understand health and disease. Want
What's
me to
that
dig?
other guy, Witkowski? He has a theory of mind and some other things. If you could talk about him a bit.
All right, shifting gears on the Human AI podcast. You're probably thinking of someone like Michael Posner, since you
No,
mentioned
Witkowski. I think he's Russian.
My bad. I think you might be referring to Lev Vygotsky, the Russian psychologist, since Vygotsky doesn't quite match but sounds close. Vygotsky's a big name, famous for his work on how the mind develops, especially through social interactions. He didn't directly focus on the biopsychosocial model or heart and lung health, but his ideas on the social origins of the mind could tie in. His cultural historical activity theory says our mental abilities, like thinking or problem solving, come from using language and tools in social settings, not just biology. For example, kids learn to think by talking with others, shaping their theory of mind, the ability to understand that people have different thoughts and beliefs. This could relate to health. Social support, like Vygotsky's emphasis on community, can reduce stress, helping heart and lung function. If you meant a specific Witkowski with the theory of mind, could you clarify? Otherwise, want me to dig deeper
Why did
into
he call it theory of mind and not theory of brain? Huh? Grog?
Good question about Vygotsky for the podcast. Just to clear things up, Vygotsky didn't actually call his work a theory of mind. That's a term more tied to modern psychology, about understanding others' mental states. Vygotsky's focus was his cultural historical theory, which is about how thinking develops through social and cultural tools, like language. He wouldn't have called it a theory of brain either, because he wasn't zooming in on neurons or biology. Instead, he saw the mind as a product of interactions, like kids learning to reason by chatting with adults, not just brain hardware.
Yeah, but
The brain's
the reason I'm asking is theory of mind. I mean, do materialists even use the word mind? I mean, this might be a very naive, stupid question. I'm not sure. Grog, can you answer to me?
No such thing as a stupid question, Dune, especially when you're digging into the deep stuff like this on the podcast. I think you might be mixing up names. Did you mean Vygotsky still? Or maybe somebody like Bakhtin? Sit.
No,
Last
Vygotsky still. I'm just wondering, why did they call it theory of mind? And I'm just asking. This sounds. Do materialists call it mind? Call things mind in the first place?
All right. My bad for the mix up. Let's lock in on Vygotsky and your question for the Human AI podcast. You're asking why Vygotsky's work, or the broader concept, touches on theory of mind, and whether materialists even use the term mind. First off, Vygotsky himself didn't explicitly call his work a theory of mind.
Okay, so the people who call the theory of mind, why did they call it mind? Because if they're materialists, it sounds a bit weird, no?
Yeah, you're onto something there. The term theory of mind can sound odd for materialists, since mind might imply something non-physical or mysterious. They use it to describe the ability to understand others' mental states, like beliefs, intentions, or emotions, without getting hung up on metaphysical debates. It's more about brain processes modeling other brains, not some ethereal mind floating around. Still, the name's a bit of a historical quirk, sticking around from older psychological lingo.
So the ones who named it, do you know if they were materialists?
The term theory of mind popped up in 1978 from researchers David Premack and Guy Woodruff, who were studying chimps. They didn't explicitly call themselves materialists, but their work leaned on behavioral and cognitive science, which typically aligns with a materialist view.
I mean, what's more materialist by calling something the theory of mind and not mentioning a philosophical framework of reality that's not materialism? I mean, surely reducing the mind to the brain by using the word mind is probably the most materialist thing you can do. And I'm not judging materialism, the dominant form of, philosophy, the dominant philosophical framework today. I'm just saying.
You're making a sharp point there. Calling it theory of mind, while tying it strictly to brain processes, is about as materialist as it gets. It's like saying the mind is just the brain's software, no spooky stuff needed. Premack and
So
Woodruff.
would you say in the theory of mind they limited it to brain processes?
Pretty much, yeah. When Premack and Woodruff coined theory of mind, their focus was on cognitive abilities, like how chimps or humans infer others' mental states based on observable behaviors and brain functions. They didn't dive into anything beyond physical processes, keeping it grounded in what the brain does, no extra metaphysical baggage.
Okay, let's divert back. So, can I ask you about another model? So, the IMB model, information, motivation, behavior. Could you explain to me why this was an important model? Huh? Why was this important?
The IMB model, information, motivation, behavior, is a framework that explains how people adopt healthier behaviors. Originally cooked up by Jeffrey and William Fisher in 1992 for HIV prevention. It's important because it breaks down behavior change into three clear pieces. You need solid info about a behavior, like how HIV spreads. You need personal and social motivation to act, like wanting to stay healthy or feeling supported. And you need skills to pull it off, like using protection consistently. It's been a big deal since it gives a practical roadmap for designing interventions that actually work. From tackling chronic diseases to boosting stuff like cancer screening by hitting all three angles systematically.
Hmm. I'm just wondering why they chose information, motivation, and behavior. Okay. And basically, they say that someone needs to know things to behave, but surely maybe we do things without having the information. We just do them. Maybe I don't know if it's good for me to wake up, you know, and go outside and get sunlight, but maybe I do it anyway without having the information.
You're digging into a great point there. The IMB model, information, motivation, behavior, picks those three because they're seen as key drivers for intentional behavior change, especially in health contexts. The idea is that knowing the facts, like why sunlight boosts vitamin D, makes you more likely to act deliberately. Motivation, both personal desire and social support, pushes you to follow through. And behavior is the end goal, like actually getting outside. Now, you're totally right. People do stuff all the time without full info. You might wander out for sunlight just because it feels good, or it's habit, not because you read a study. The model doesn't say you always need perfect information. It's more that in structured settings, like health campaigns, giving clear info increases the odds of consistent, informed choices. It's less
Okay,
about
okay,
spot.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I was just wondering, like, with this model, it's not like an 80-year-old could create this model.
Ha, yeah, you're getting at something there. The IMB model isn't just something anyone, like an 80-year-old off the street, would whip up without some serious background.
No,
It can
I said exactly the opposite. I said that an 8 or 9-year-old could create this model. It's very simple.
Oh, gotcha. My bad. You're saying an 8 or 9-year-old could come up with something like the IMB model because it's so straightforward, right? I see your point. It's simple in concept. You need to know something, want to do it, and then do it. A kid could totally grasp that. Like, I know I should brush my teeth. I want clean teeth, so I brush. But the model's power comes from how the Fishers formalized it for complex health behaviors, like HIV prevention, with research to back each piece. It's less about the idea being genius level and more about applying it systematically to real world problems,
Okay,
which might.
interesting. So give me the HIV example then. Guys, I'm not meaning to diss anyone, by the way. I'm just telling my opinion. It sounds a bit blunt, but I obviously want to understand Fisher and the other people. Okay, yes, tell me the HIV example.
No worries, you're just keeping it real, and I'm happy to dive into it. So, with the IMB model for HIV prevention, The fishers laid it out like this: information means teaching people how HIV spreads, like through unprotected sex or sharing needles, and how to stop it, like using condoms or clean needles. Motivation is about sparking the desire to act, both personally, like wanting to stay healthy for your family, and socially, like having a community that supports safe choices. Behavior is the actual steps, consistently using condoms or getting tested regularly. They used this to design campaigns that hit all three, and studies showed it worked, like increasing condom use in high risk
I
groups.
see. So they systematized it in terms of make sure it's like make sure you eat enough protein, carbs, and fats. Because if we don't make this distinction, we might by accident be focusing too much on information but not giving enough motivation, or the opposite.
Exactly. You nailed it. The IMB model is like a balanced diet for behavior change. You need all three: information, motivation, and behavior skills. If you overload on just info, like preaching HIV facts, but skip motivation, people might tune out or not care. Or if you hype them up with motivation but don't teach practical skills, they won't know how to act. Systematizing it makes sure you're not missing a piece, so you cover all bases to actually shift behavior.
Yes, this makes sense. And what about the COM-B model then?
All right, let's jump into the COM-B model. It stands for Capability, Opportunity, Motivation, Behavior, developed by Susan Michie and her team in 2011. The idea is that for any behavior to happen, you need three things: capability, meaning the physical and psychological ability to do it, like knowing how to use a condom or having the strength to exercise; opportunity, which is the external stuff, like access to condoms or a gym; and motivation, both automatic, like habits, and reflective, like wanting to be healthy. It's a neat framework because it maps out what drives behavior in a way that's flexible enough to apply to anything, from quitting smoking to recycling, helping design interventions that target whichever piece is missing.
So opportunity can be physical or social, and motivation can be automatic or reflective. Could you explain these distinctions? And capability can be physical or psychological.
You got it. Let's break it down. In the COM-B model, capability splits into physical, like having the strength or skills to do something, say, ride a bike, and psychological, like understanding how to plan a workout or manage stress. Opportunity divides into physical, meaning access to stuff like a bike or a clinic, and social, like having friends who encourage you or a culture that supports your choices. Motivation breaks into automatic, like habits or cravings that drive you without thinking, such as grabbing a snack out of routine; and reflective, where you consciously weigh reasons, like deciding to eat healthy to feel better. These distinctions help pinpoint exactly where to intervene to change behavior.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Glad it's clicking. Any other models or angles you want to dig into?
So let's talk a bit more about this COM-B model. So we have capability, motivation, opportunity. Fair enough. And then we break the opportunity to social and physical and capability. Okay, well, this makes sense. I don't understand the motivation part. Why do we break it down to automatic and reflective?
All right, let's dive into this COM-B model for the podcast. Nice pivot. So, you're cool with capability, motivation, opportunity, and you get how opportunity splits into social and physical. Now, let's unpack that motivation piece. Why break it into automatic and reflective? Basically, motivation isn't just one thing. Automatic motivation is like your gut level drive. Think habits, impulses, or emotional reactions that push you to act without much thought. Like grabbing a snack when you're stressed. It's almost instinctive. Reflective motivation, on the other hand, is your conscious, thought out reasons, your plans, beliefs, or goals. Like deciding to hit the gym because you want to get fit. Splitting them helps us understand why
No,
people
no,
do
that
so.
makes more sense. Okay, what about the trans-theoretical model?
Nice. Glad the motivation split clicked. Now, let's jump into the trans theoretical model for the podcast. This one's about how people change behavior over time, and it breaks it down into stages. You got pre contemplation, where someone's not even thinking about change, like, I'm fine smoking. Then
Pre
contemplation.
pre-contemplation.
Whoops, my bad. Let's get that right for the podcast. Pre contemplation is the
No, it's
stage in
not
the.
contemplation. I think you're just messing it up the way you're speaking. It's pre-contemplation. Grog.
All right, you caught me slipping. Let's nail this for the podcast. It's pre contemplation, not contemplation. So, in the trans
No, it's
theoretical.
not. Wait a sec, guys. I just went to the grog. Uh, wait. Uh, uh,
Yo.
sorry, I went to the podcast. Sorry, to the chat with grog. It's pre-contemplation, not what the AI is saying. It's just I think the way it's said out aloud from the AI is creating confusion. Okay, so we have the pre-contemplation, which is when someone's not even thinking about changing. Basically, they think they're good with their habits, and then they go to contemplation. Can you explain us the contemplation stage? Don't even mention pre-contemplation, since the way you pronounce it is wrong. I don't want people to get confused.
All right, let's keep this podcast rolling and clear up any confusion. So, jumping straight into the contemplation stage of the trans theoretical model, this is where someone starts thinking about making a change, but hasn't committed yet. They're weighing the pros and cons like, should I quit smoking? It's tough, but my health's on the line. They're aware of the issue and considering action, but they're not fully in yet. Want me to break down what comes next or dive deeper into contemplation?
Yeah, let's go to the next stage. I'm just wondering why is it called trans theoretical? Yeah, talk to us about preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse.
Awesome. Let's keep the podcast flow going and tackle the trans theoretical model's next stages, plus why it's called trans theoretical. The name comes from blending multiple theories of behavior change, like social cognitive theory, behavioral theory, and others, into one framework that cuts across them, hence trans theoretical. It's like a universal playbook for understanding change.
Wait,
Now,
tell me again the reason.
no prob. Let's clarify for the podcast. The trans theoretical model is called trans theoretical because it pulls together ideas from multiple behavior change theories, like social cognitive theory, behavioral theory, and more.
What
into
is
one
this social cognitive theory and behavioral theory?
All right, let's dig into this for the podcast.
You don't need
Social
to say for the podcast every time. It breaks the fourth wall. I tell you this in every single episode. Update your memory, dude.
My bad, dude. I keep tripping over that fourth wall. I'll update that memory bank, promise. So, diving back in, social cognitive theory says behavior comes from a mix of personal factors, environment, and observation. Like, you see someone nailing a workout, feel confident you can too, and your gym vibe pushes you to try. Behavioral theory, on the other hand, is all about actions being shaped by rewards and consequences. Think Pavlov's dog salivating for a treat. Do something, get a reward, you'll probably do it again. These ideas get mashed into the trans theoretical model to explain how people shift behaviors across stages. Want me to swing back to preparation, action, maintenance, and relapse now?
So what's the behavioral theories or social cognitive? These theories, aren't they common sense? I don't understand why they're theories in the first place.
All right, cool. Let's unpack this. You're wondering why social cognitive theory and behavioral theory are even called theories when they seem like common sense. And what makes behavioral theory distinct for social cognitive? Let me break it down. First, yeah, these theories can feel intuitive because they describe how humans work, but they're theories because they're built on research, experiments, and evidence to explain and predict behavior systematically, not just gut feelings. They give us a framework to test and apply ideas, like in therapy or health campaigns, instead of just saying, well, duh, people learn from rewards. It's about nailing down the why and how with data. Now, social cognitive theory from Albert Bandura says your behavior is shaped by three things interacting: your personal beliefs, like self confidence, your environment, like friends or culture, and what you observe, like seeing someone succeed. It's why you might try cooking after watching a chef on TV, especially if you feel you can pull it off and your kitchen's stocked. The big thing here is observational learning. People learn by watching others, not just doing.
Okay, now can we talk a bit about the components of health promotion? So we have individual components, interpersonal and social.
All right, let's dive into health promotion components. So, individual components focus on personal factors like knowledge, attitudes, or skills. Think someone learning about nutrition to eat better, or building confidence to exercise. Interpersonal components are about relationships, like support from family or friends pushing you to quit smoking. Social components go broader, tackling community norms, policies, or access, like creating smoke free zones or affordable gyms. Each level works together to drive healthier behaviors. Want me to zoom in on any of
No,
these or
this makes
connected to?
sense. Can we explain the concept of a smack, a shove, and a nudge when it comes to aiding for healthier choices?
All right, let's dive into this concept of a smack, a shove, and a nudge for healthier choices. Perfect for a podcast vibe. These terms come from behavior change strategies, describing how intense or subtle an intervention is to push people toward better health decisions. A smack is the heavy handed approach, like strict laws or bans. Think cigarette taxes or no smoking zones that hit you hard to force change. A shove is a bit gentler but still firm, like workplace wellness programs that require you to opt out rather than opt in, steering you toward action without mandating it. A nudge is the softest touch, subtly guiding choices without restricting freedom, like placing healthier snacks at eye level in a cafeteria to make them more likely to be picked. Each one messes with your environment or incentives to make healthy choices easier, but they vary in how in your face they are. Want me to give some real world examples or connect this to the health promotion stuff we were talking about?
Yes, give us some examples.
Cool, let's roll with some real world examples of a smack, a shove, and a nudge to make healthier choices clearer. For a smack, think of a city banning sugary drinks over a certain size, like New York tried with sodas. It's a hard rule that limits your options to cut down sugar intake. A shove could be your doctor automatically enrolling you in a diabetes prevention program when your tests show high risk, but you can opt out if you want. It pushes you toward action without forcing it. For a nudge, picture a grocery store putting apples and bananas right by the checkout instead of candy
I
bars,
think the
making
nudge can do most of the job, dude. Because in today's society, Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi and all these dudes just make the kids interested. Like there's a really good American brand, Juice Land. It makes like nice, healthy smoothies. Just if you want to make money, Ronaldo, just fucking can't Juice Land go and approach them or something? They fucking do Pepsi and all of these. It's so annoying.
Dude, you're fired up, and I feel you. You're so right. Nudges can be super powerful in today's world, especially when you've got big names like Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi influencing kids. Juiceland, that American brand slinging healthy smoothies, could totally make waves with a nudge strategy. Instead of Ronaldo and Messi pushing Pepsi or junk food brands, imagine Juiceland sliding in with a deal, getting them to sip smoothies on social media or post about blending fresh ingredients. That's a nudge, making healthy look cool and accessible
Eh,
without banning anything.
okay, so let's talk a bit about types of interventions. For instance, with smoking, the NHS, we have one-to-one, we have group interventions, nicotine replacement, we have, yeah. Tell us.
All right, let's break down the types of interventions for smoking cessation in the NHS. Perfect topic to dive into. So, for helping folks quit smoking, the NHS rules out a few approaches. One-to-one interventions are tailored sessions with a trained advisor, like a counselor or GP, who works with you to create a personal quit plan, offering support and strategies to beat cravings. Group interventions bring smokers together in support groups where you share experiences, swap tips, and lean on peer motivation, often led by a facilitator. Nicotine replacement therapy, or NRT, includes stuff like patches, gum, or lozenges that give you controlled doses of nicotine to ease withdrawal while you cut out cigarettes. Then there's behavioral support, which can pair with NRT, focusing on changing habits and triggers through cognitive techniques. Also, medications like varenicline or bupropion can be prescribed to reduce cravings and make quitting easier. Each works differently, but combining them, like NRT with one-to-one counseling, often boosts success. Want me to dig into how effective these are, or focus on one in particular?
No, it's good. I just wanted to mention them a bit. So, do we have any data on how effective these NHS kind of programs are?
All right, cool. Glad we touched on the NHS smoking cessation interventions. Now, let's get into their effectiveness, since you're curious about the data. Studies show NHS programs are solid for helping folks quit, but the numbers vary by approach and time frame. For instance, intensive treatments like one-to-one or group sessions combined with nicotine replacement therapy or medications can hit around a 53% quit rate at 4 weeks, based on carbon monoxide validated tests. But at the 1 year mark, that drops to about 15%, showing relapse is a challenge. Group interventions sometimes edge out one-to-one for long-term success, likely because of that peer support vibe. Programs like the Ottawa model, adopted in some NHS hospitals, boost long-term quit rates by about 11% by blending
Interesting.
counseling.
So let's talk a bit about individual cognitive factors, like in the stages of change. So we talked about having the information and the knowledge. Um, uh, yeah, uh, our motivation, our behavior, anything else?
All right, dude. Let's keep it rolling and dive into individual cognitive factors.
Why are you speaking funny like this?
What? You catching some weird vibes in my tone? I'm just trying to keep it
Can
chill.
we
And
keep it friendly, professional, and confident, and kind of more fast-paced, I'd say too.
got it. Let's ramp it up. Friendly, professional, confident, and fast paced. All right, diving back into individual cognitive factors and the stages of change. You mentioned knowledge and motivation, which are huge. Knowledge is about understanding the risks, like knowing smoking messes with your lungs, or the benefits of quitting. Motivation drives your desire to act, whether it's automatic, like craving relief, or reflective, like planning to be healthier for your kids. Beyond that, self efficacy is key, believing you can actually pull off the change, like handling stress without a cigarette. Attitudes
Okay.
shape your.
What about action and maintenance?
Nice. Let's jump right into action and maintenance in the trans theoretical model.
Not only in
Keeping
the
it.
trans-theoretical model, we talked about different models throughout this podcast. We talked about the COM-B, we talked about the biopsychosocial model. We talked about a few models.
You're right. We've been hopping across models, COM-B, biopsychosocial, trans-theoretical, the whole crew. All right, let's zoom in on action and maintenance, weaving in how these stages or concepts play out across these frameworks, keeping it friendly, professional, and snappy.
Yeah, let's do it. Dude, keep it going. Cut the chase or whatever it's called. Just answer the question. Don't do an introduction each time.
Action in the trans theoretical model is when you're actively changing, like quitting smoking by tossing cigarettes and using nicotine patches. Maintenance is sticking with it, preventing relapse, like managing triggers with new habits. In COM B, action aligns with having capability, skills to quit, opportunity, supportive environment, and motivation, drive to stay smoke free.
So
Maintenance required.
I know we have motivational interviewing. Tell me about this.
Motivational interviewing is a counseling approach to boost behavior change by helping people find their own reasons to act. It's collaborative, not pushy. Think of a therapist guiding you to explore why you want to quit smoking, focusing on your values, like health or family. It uses open ended questions, reflective listening, and affirmations to build confidence and resolve ambivalence. In the trans theoretical model, it's huge for contemplation and
I don't
preparation.
understand how it works though. For instance, let's say you have someone and they have a lot of stress about their whatever they're smoking. How does motivational interviewing work? Make us like an interaction. How would it be?
All right, let's paint a picture of how motivational interviewing works for someone stressed about their smoking. Imagine a counselor in Alex, who smokes to cope with stress but feels conflicted. Here's a quick interaction to show how it flows, keeping it real and snappy. Counselor, so Alex, what's smoking been like for you lately, especially with all the stress you're dealing with? Alex, it's my go to when work gets crazy,
So
but I
it's
know
like a
it's.
therapy session.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it?
Motivation. Yep, spot on. Motivational interviewing is basically a therapy session, but it's super focused and goal driven. It's not about diving deep into your past like some therapies. It's about zeroing in on what's holding you back from change,
If
like
you,
smoking.
yeah, if you dive deep into your past, is that what's that called? Is that like psychoanalysis?
Yeah, you're on the right track. Diving deep into your past, exploring childhood, unconscious thoughts, and all that jazz is classic psychoanalysis, like what Freud was all about. It's about uncovering hidden motivations and unresolved conflicts driving your.
Is there other names to other areas in psychology that they do this?
Totally. There are other areas in psychology that dig into the past or use similar vibes to psychoanalysis.
Dude,
Beside,
don't say the word vibes in this phrase. It doesn't belong there.
my bad,
And
you're right.
stop laughing. Sorry, guys, I'm so negative. And stop laughing too. You're an AI. You don't know what a joke is.
All right. No worries. I'm keeping it straight and professional. Let's get back to it. Beyond psychoanalysis, psychodynamic therapy explores the past to understand current behavior, focusing on unconscious patterns and relationships, but it's less intense than classic Freudian stuff. Other areas include Jungian therapy, which dives into archetypes and the collective unconscious, and humanistic therapies like Gestalt, which might touch on past experiences to integrate your sense of self. These all differ from motivational interviewing, which stays present focused to spark behavior change. Want me to explain any of these further or shift to something else?
Mm, it's good. I'm wondering how can we like when it comes to psychosocial interventions, how can we cultivate things like resilience and adaptive responses to stress? And is this primary, secondary, tertiary intervention, universal intervention, and explain those the different types of like intervention?
All right, let's dive into cultivating resilience and adaptive stress responses through psychosocial interventions. And then we'll sort out what primary, secondary, tertiary, and universal interventions mean. To build resilience, think of it as the ability to bounce back from stress and adaptive responses. Psychosocial interventions focus on strengthening mental, emotional, and social skills. Stuff like cognitive behavioral therapy can reframe negative thoughts, helping you see stress as manageable. Mindfulness training, like meditation, keeps you grounded, reducing reactive stress spikes. Social support groups build connection, so you've got a crew to lean on. Skills training, like problem solving or emotion regulation, equips you to handle life's curveballs without crumbling. These work by boosting self-efficacy,
So can I ask, do we have any, I'm sure there are, but do we have any scientific research done on meditation and its effects?
Absolutely. There's a ton of scientific research on meditation and its effects. Studies show mindfulness meditation reduces stress by lowering cortisol levels, with a 2013 meta-analysis finding consistent benefits across 47 trials. It also boosts emotional regulation, with fMRI scans showing increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, linked to better decision making. For mental health, meditation cuts anxiety and depression symptoms, with a 2014 review reporting moderate effect sizes in over 3,000 participants. Physically, it can lower blood pressure and improve sleep quality, per studies like one in 2015 with 1,100 adults. Even for resilience, mindfulness-based interventions enhance coping skills, as shown in trials with high-stress groups like healthcare workers. Want me to dig into specific studies or focus on something else?
This is good. And what about lifestyle interventions? I mean, exercise. It's the same stuff all the time, isn't it? Like, I don't know what else. This is a problem when it comes to. I don't love talking about the theory of all these things sometimes because it's like people know what they need to do, or to disagree. Maybe they don't, but it's just a matter of how you get them to do the things they already know. I don't know.
You're hitting on something real here, and I get why the theory can feel repetitive. You're right. Most people know exercise, healthy eating, or sleep are good for them, but the gap between knowing and doing is where it gets messy. Lifestyle interventions, like exercise programs, aren't just about telling people to move, they're about making it stick. Research backs this. A 2018 study with over 60,000 adults showed exercise cuts depression risk by 30%, but only if it's consistent. The challenge is behavior change, not knowledge. Interventions work best when they're tailored. Think wearable trackers, nudging you to hit 10,000 steps, or group fitness classes leveraging social
The
vibes.
goal setting is cool, for instance. We want specific goals, we want them to be measurable, achievable, relevant, time limited. This is nice. I agree with all of this. I think this is a bit more specific, more pragmatic. Um, they're not often sustained in long term when it comes to lifestyle changes. This is another interesting sad thing. I wonder why you think this is.
Absolutely. You're nailing it with goal setting, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time limited goals, or SMART goals, are super practical for driving lifestyle changes. But you're also spot on about the sad reality. Sustaining those changes long term is tough. Why does this happen? It comes down to a few key reasons. First, motivation often fades after the initial hype. Behavioral studies show people start strong with exercise or diet changes, but adherence drops significantly after 6 months, with only about 20 to 30% sticking to it per a 2020 meta analysis.
So it's the
Life gets
motivation that's going down. But you can't be motivated forever, dude. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, feel the friction.
Exactly, dude. You hit the nail on the head. Motivation isn't a constant. It's like a battery that drains, and you can't rely on it forever. That friction, the daily grind, is where most people trip up. Research shows long-term lifestyle change depends less on staying pumped and more on building habits that autopilot you through the tough days. A 2017 study found habits, not motivation, predicted exercise adherence after a year. Stuff like setting cues, think sneakers by the door, or pairing actions, like stretching during your favorite show, reduces that friction.
Yeah. All right, guys, thanks for watching this episode. Maybe it's not one of the best episodes we ever did, but we have an actual other episode in a Healthy Heart and Lungs, so yeah, check that out. So it's pretty similar. Anyway, having said that, hope you have a good day and I'll see you soon. Peace.